Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are breaking down the official release chapter by chapter, and today we are on chapter 15, Gong.
And what a fitting title. This is the chapter where the bell is truly rung on the Buggy Pirates. They have no idea what just hit them.
Oh, they are about to find out. Luffy takes a literal cannonball to the gut and turns it into the most disrespectful return to sender I have ever seen. It is a thing of beauty. My man said no you.
If you think that sounds like an exaggeration, you haven't been paying attention. This chapter is a masterclass in establishing character through conflict. And if you want to be here when we break down the aftermath of that cannonball, just find that subscribe button and give it a good tap. Think of it as ringing the gong on our next episode.
Exactly. Let's get into it because the mayor of Orangetown, Boodle, is stepping up.
He is. We see him walking through the devastated streets, past his injured and terrified citizens, and his face is just a mask of grim determination. He walks right up to Buggy, no fear, and challenges him for the town. The Buggy Pirates are just laughing at him.
Of course they are. To them, he's just some old guy. There's no bounty on his head. He's got no visible weapons. He's not a threat. It's like an ant challenging a boot. And this new character, Cabaji, the staff officer, this acrobat-looking dude on a unicycle, he immediately offers to take care of it.
I want to pause on Cabaji for a moment. This is quintessential early Oda design. You have a man with a sharp, angular face, a dramatic black and white scarf, riding a unicycle while juggling. It's so visually distinct. He's not just a generic pirate swordsman, he's a performer. It speaks to the whole circus theme of the Buggy Pirates.
100%. He's all flair. He leaps into the air, balanced perfectly on his one wheel, sword out, ready to just cut this man down in the street as part of the show. It's theatrics. But Buggy stops him.
He does. And this is the first interesting character beat for Buggy, and maybe the most important one in this chapter for understanding him. He says, "Back off." The challenge was made to him, the captain. There's a strange sort of pride there. He's not just a chaotic evil force, he has rules.
He's a clown, but he's a captain. He has a code, even if it's twisted one. He's not just going to let his underling handle a direct challenge. It feels almost old-fashioned, like a throwback to a classic pirate duel. It shows a level of self-importance that goes beyond just being a goon. He sees himself as a figure of authority who must answer challenges personally.
Which is why Boodle's next line hits him so hard. Boodle just stands his ground, looks this terrifying pirate captain in the eye, and tells Buggy this town, its people, its history, is his treasure.
And that just breaks Buggy's brain. He cannot compute. The gears are grinding in his head and they just stop. He laughs, this loud, mocking laugh, and says, "Treasure is only gold, silver, jewels, things that sparkle."
It establishes him as the philosophical opposite of Luffy in that moment. It's not about dreams or people or inherited will. It's about loot. It's the most stereotypical surface-level definition of a pirate's goal.
It's such a classic, narrow-minded pirate view. We just saw with Shanks, literally a few arcs ago, that a straw hat can be a treasure of immense value. We saw with Luffy that friendship and his promise to Shanks are his treasure. We saw Choo-Choo guarding the treasure that was his late owner's pet shop. But for Buggy, if it doesn't glitter, it's worthless. It makes him feel small, thematically, even though he's the big threat right now.
It's a very important distinction. There are pirates who seek treasure, and there are pirates who seek the treasure, the One Piece. Buggy, at this point, seems squarely in the former category. He's after wealth, not the fulfillment of a grand dream. He sees the world in terms of monetary value, which is why a concept like a town being a treasure is literally laughable to him.
And to prove his point, to show Boodle how worthless his treasure is against real power, he does something absolutely wild. He just detaches his arm at the shoulder. His hand holding a knife just floats through the air completely separate from his body and grabs Boodle by the throat, lifting him off the ground.
It's our first real look at the bara bara no mi, the chop-chop fruit, in action, and it's genuinely unsettling. Oda draws it so matter-of-factly. There's no effort. Buggy's just standing there, one arm at his side, the other floating 20 feet away, gloating, while his disembodied hand chokes the life out of this man.
It's straight up horror movie stuff. A disembodied hand with a knife is a classic horror trope, and here it is in a shonen manga. Boodle is trying to fight it, hitting the hand, but it's no use. It's like punching a floating rock. There's no body attached to transfer the force to. How do you even fight that?
You can't with conventional means. This is our first real glimpse into how varied and strange devil fruit powers can be. Luffy's is weird, but it still seems to follow a certain logic of physics. This breaks that logic. His parts are flying. Are they telekinetically controlled? Is there a range limit? We have so many questions, and Buggy isn't answering. He's just monologuing about how after this, he's heading for the Grand Line to steal all the treasure in the world.
Same goal as Luffy, completely different reason. Luffy wants to be the freest man on the seas. The King of the Pirates title is the proof of that. Buggy wants to be the richest. It's adventure versus acquisition.
And you see the despair on the townspeople's faces. Boodle can't fight a floating hand. They can't do anything. It looks like it's over for him. Buggy is making his point in the cruelest way possible.
But then a hand reaches out from off-screen and just yanks Buggy's hand off the mayor's throat. Just grabs the wrist and pulls it away.
And it's Luffy. Of course it's Luffy. He's been standing there, presumably watching this whole exchange, and he finally decided things had gone far enough.
He just walks in, saves the day in the most straightforward way possible. Doesn't even break a sweat. He just looks at this floating, choking hand and says, nope. The problem solver is here. He sees a problem, he punches the problem. Or in this case, yanks.
Buggy doesn't seem that surprised. Annoyed, perhaps, but not shocked. He just calmly recalls his hand. It flies back across the space and reattaches to his arm like it was never gone. He treats it like recalling a well-trained falcon.
It's so clean. That's the part that gets me. Oda shows us how seamless the power is. This isn't some gruesome body horror thing where you see tendons and muscles snapping back together. It's a smooth, practiced ability. It's a click. Buggy's been doing this a long, long time. He is a master of his devil fruit, and that makes him incredibly dangerous.
And Nami immediately sees her opening. The second the tension shifts from the mayor to Luffy, she points at Buggy and tells Luffy and Zoro, you guys handle him, I'm gonna go find that map and any other treasure.
I love how wonderfully single-minded she is. While Luffy and Zoro are gearing up for what could be a life or death battle, she's on a heist. I love it. She has her priorities 100% straight. Her goal here is not to save the town. It's to get the map of the Grand Line. Saving the town is just a potential and convenient side effect of Luffy doing what he does.
It's pure pragmatism. She sees two powerful fighters about to distract the main threat. That's not a battle, it's an opportunity. She's playing chess while they're playing checkers.
But Mayor Boodle isn't happy about being saved. He gets up coughing, and he is furious that Luffy interfered. He says this was his fight, his responsibility.
You get it. His pride is on the line. He wanted to be the one to protect his treasure, his town. It's a classic hero trope, the guy who won't accept help because it would feel like a personal failure. He would rather die on his own terms than be saved by a stranger.
It's noble, but it's also, let's be real, incredibly dumb in this situation. He was seconds away from being choked out or stabbed by a floating hand. He had no chance.
And Luffy, in a moment that I think defines his entire character up to this point, just listens to him for a second and then punches him square in the jaw.
Knocks him out cold. One shot. Nami is completely horrified. Her eyes are bugging out of her head. Zoro just kind of smirks, like he gets it. To an outsider, it looks like the cruelest, most random act of violence. But Luffy just did the most practical, logical thing in the world.
He did. He looks at this man who was about to get himself killed for pride, who is going to be a liability on the battlefield, and he makes a decision. Your safety is more important than your pride right now. He doesn't have time to argue, to convince him. The threat is still right there. So he chooses the quickest, most efficient solution.
That's it. That's the core of Luffy. He's not being a jerk. He's taking the burden. He's saying, okay, you can be mad at me later, but you're gonna be alive to be mad at me. It's a specific kind of kindness that doesn't look like kindness at first. He's protecting Boodle from Buggy, but he's also protecting Boodle from Boodle.
It's a captain's decision. We see this time and time again. A captain can't just be a friend. They have to be a leader. He assesses the battlefield, identifies a liability, even a well-meaning one, and neutralizes it non-lethally to protect the mission, and more importantly, to protect the person. He would do the same for any of his crew. If Usopp were about to do something brave but suicidal, Luffy would knock him out first and deal with the fallout later.
He literally took the mayor out of the fight so the mayor couldn't get himself taken out of the world. It's brilliant. And then the panel where he just lays him down gently on the ground, almost like tucking a kid into bed, that's the whole story right there. The punch was loud, but the action of laying him down is quiet and speaks volumes. The violence was a tool to achieve a gentle end. After that, he turns his attention back to the real threat.
With the civilians secured, he can now focus entirely on the enemy. He looks right at Buggy, this imposing, powerful pirate captain who can detach his own limbs, who is surrounded by his crew, who has already leveled part of the town.
And he just yells, "Hey, Big Nose!" And the entire world stops. The sound design in my head for this moment is just a record scratch and total silence.
The silence is deafening. Zoro knows. He gets this, oh no, look on his face. Nami knows. Buggy's entire crew freezes in absolute terror. They look like they just saw a ghost. Their comical pirate grins just melt off their faces and are replaced with pure, unadulterated fear.
Because Luffy, without knowing any of the history, any of the context, just stumbled upon the one forbidden word. He found the big red button that says "Do not push," and he slammed his fist on it with the force of a gum-gum pistol.
It's so perfect because it's not a calculated insult. Luffy is not trying to be clever or get under his skin. He just says what he sees. He saw a guy with a big, red, round nose and called it out. It's his childlike honesty that makes it so devastatingly effective. If he had tried to come up with a real insult, it wouldn't have landed half as hard.
And the visual storytelling is incredible. Buggy's face goes from smug confidence to pure murderous rage in a split second. The veins are popping on his forehead. His eyes go white with fury. And his crew's reaction tells you everything you need to know. This isn't just a quirk. This isn't just a point of sensitivity. This is a serious, deep-seated complex. This is his ultimate trigger.
You can feel the temperature drop. The entire vibe of the scene changes from a tense standoff to imminent doom. Zoro and Nami are already diving for cover. They know what's coming. They don't know the specifics, but they can read the room. And the room is screaming danger.
It's a fascinating insight into Buggy's psychology. He was fine with a man challenging his life and his captaincy. He treated it like a game. But a comment about his appearance, that bypasses all his logic and pride and hits something raw and primal. Buggy doesn't even respond to Luffy. He just turns to his crew and bellows at them to load another Buggy Ball into the cannon.
He's not messing around anymore. All that talk about, I'll handle this myself, gone. Out the window. He's not going to use his devil fruit. He's not going to send Cabaji. He's going straight for the WMD. The thing that leveled a block of the city is now being aimed at one rubber boy who made a bad joke. It is the definition of a disproportionate response.
It shows how completely he lost control. The strategic, prideful captain from a moment ago who wanted to fight his own battles is gone. Now it's just pure vindictive anger. Luffy completely broke his composure with 2 words. Buggy's pride in his captaincy is a shield, but his insecurity about his nose is his core, and Luffy just shattered it.
The cannon fires. The special, super powerful cannonball comes screaming towards Luffy. Zoro and Nami are braced for impact. Buggy's crew is grinning, thinking it's all over. They've seen what this thing does to buildings. What chance does a person have?
And Luffy just stands there, calm. He takes a deep breath and starts to inflate. He blows himself up like a balloon. Gomu Gomu no Fusen. It's the first time we're really seeing this in a combat situation. His whole body swells, becoming this giant, taut rubber ball. It looks ridiculous, but the implications are immense.
Okay, but think about what this means for his powers. It's not just stretching. We've seen him stretch and punch. This is different. He can reshape his body, control his own internal pressure, and alter the physical properties of his rubber form. He isn't just a slingshot. He can be a shield, a cushion, a balloon. This is the moment we, and everyone on the battlefield, realize the Gomu Gomu Mi is far more versatile than we could have imagined.
Absolutely. It's not just an offensive power, it's the ultimate defense. And the Buggy Ball hits him dead center in the stomach, and it just stops. The fuse is still burning, you can see the sizzle, but the cannonball itself just sinks into his rubbery gut like a rock in a memory foam mattress. There's this perfect moment of silence.
Everyone is just staring. I don't think even Zoro has seen this before. Nami certainly hasn't. Their expressions are pure shock. They're seeing the true defensive potential of the Gomu Gomu Mi for the first time. An unstoppable force has just met a very movable object.
And Luffy just grunts, flexes his abs, and shoots the cannonball right back where it came from. Thwump.
With all of its original momentum plus interest, it flies back towards the Buggy Pirates, who are still standing there with their jaws on the floor, completely dumbfounded. The attack they thought would end the fight is now about to end them.
Super. That is how you turn an enemy's ultimate weapon into your own signature move. He didn't just block it. He didn't just dodge it. He absorbed the entire threat and reflected it perfectly. That's not just strength. That's ingenuity. It's a perfect display of how Luffy fights. He's not just overpowering his enemies. He uses their own nature against them in creative, often absurd ways.
He did. He looks at this man who is about to get himself killed for pride, who is going to be a liability on the battlefield, and he makes a decision. Your safety is more important than your pride right now. He doesn't have time to argue, to convince him. The threat is still right there. So he chooses the quickest, most efficient solution.
That's it. That's the core of Luffy. He's not being a jerk. He's taking the burden. He's saying, okay, you can be mad at me later, but you're gonna be alive to be mad at me. It's a specific kind of kindness that doesn't look like kindness at first. He's protecting Boodle from Buggy, but he's also protecting Boodle from Boodle.
It's a captain's decision. We see this time and time again. A captain can't just be a friend. They have to be a leader. He assesses the battlefield, identifies a liability, even a well-meaning one, and neutralizes it non-lethally to protect the mission, and more importantly, to protect the person. He would do the same for any of his crew. If Usopp were about to do something brave but suicidal, Luffy would knock him out first and deal with the fallout later.
He literally took the mayor out of the fight so the mayor couldn't get himself taken out of the world. It's brilliant. And then the panel where he just lays him down gently on the ground, almost like tucking a kid into bed, that's the whole story right there. The punch was loud, but the action of laying him down is quiet and speaks volumes. The violence was a tool to achieve a gentle end. After that, he turns his attention back to the real threat.
With the civilian secured, he can now focus entirely on the enemy. He looks right at Buggy, this imposing, powerful pirate captain who can detach his own limbs, who is surrounded by his crew, who has already leveled part of the town.
And he just yells, "Hey, Big Nose!" And the entire world stops. The sound design in my head for this moment is just a record scratch and total silence.
The silence is deafening. Zoro knows. He gets this, oh no, look on his face. Nami knows. Buggy's entire crew freezes in absolute terror. They look like they just saw a ghost. Their comical pirate grins just melt off their faces and are replaced with pure, unadulterated fear.
Because Luffy, without knowing any of the history, any of the context, just stumbled upon the one forbidden word. He found the big red button that says "Do not push," and he slammed his fist on it with the force of a gum-gum pistol.
It's so perfect because it's not a calculated insult. Luffy is not trying to be clever.
The look on Buggy's face must be priceless. His ultimate insult met with the ultimate defense. His ultimate weapon turned back on him. This is an absolute disaster for him emotionally and physically. And that's the end of the chapter. The Buggy Ball is sailing right back at them, and they are completely, utterly unprepared.
It's an incredible cliffhanger. The gong wasn't for Boodle, it was the sound of a cannonball being bounced off a rubber stomach, signaling the real start of this fight.
What a chapter. The way Oda uses one simple interaction to establish so many core character traits is just masterful. It's so dense with information.
It really is. We learned about Buggy's specific code of honor, his deep-seated insecurity, and his materialistic worldview. We see Nami's unwavering pragmatism in the heat of the moment. And we get one of the most definitive Luffy moments so far, with him knocking out the mayor.
That punch is an act of mercy, bro. It really is. It's Luffy protecting someone from themselves. And that's a theme we are going to see again and again and again throughout this entire story. He understands the heart of the fight better than anyone. He knew the mayor's pride was going to be a bigger danger to him than any of Buggy's knives.
It's the core of his protective instinct. It's not about letting people have their glorious death. It's about making sure they get to live. Before we get into what we think happens next, let us know what you think is the most underrated Luffy moment from East Blue. Drop a comment below. We'd love to see what everyone picks out.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to be reading all of those. All right, predictions for Chapter 16. The chapter is called Versus the Buggy Pirates, so we know it's on. What do you have for me, Robin?
Okay, my first prediction is that the Buggy Ball will devastate his crew, but not the main officers. Specifically, Buggy himself will use his Bara Bara powers to split his body apart at the last second, letting the explosion pass right through the empty space between his torso and legs. He'll be furious, maybe a little singed, but functionally unharmed. It's the perfect way to show that his power is also an incredible defense, just like Luffy's.
I like that a lot. It establishes a defense for him too, so he's still a threat. Okay, my turn. I'm predicting that after the smoke clears, Zoro is going to step up. Luffy took the first shot, now it's his first mate's turn, and he's going to square off against Cabaji. It feels like the natural matchup. The serious, no-nonsense swordsman versus the flashy, unicycle-riding, fire-breathing performer who also uses a sword. It's a battle of substance versus style.
That makes a lot of sense. The classic number 2 versus number 2. For my second prediction, I think the explosion from the reflected Buggy Ball, in addition to knocking out a bunch of Buggy's crew, will inadvertently blow a hole in the wall of a building, revealing the location of Buggy's treasure room. Nami, ever the opportunist, will see the gold glinting and make a break for it. But she'll be intercepted by the other main officer, Moji the Beast Tamer, and his lion, Richie.
Setting up the third fight. I love it. Okay, for my final prediction, after seeing his crew get wrecked by his own attack, and with Luffy having completely humiliated him, Buggy is going to be so enraged that he reveals the full, terrifying extent of his powers. Not just detaching hands or splitting at the waist, but separating his entire body into a dozen flying pieces, hands, feet, head, torso, to attack Luffy from all angles at once. We're about to see the Chop Chop fruit get really serious.
I think that's very likely. The cannon failed, so now he has to rely on his own unique ability, and he's going to show Luffy why he's a Grand Line level threat.
It's going to be super. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Join us next time as we dive into the fallout of the Buggy Ball.
Until then, keep sailing.